There is nothing that can be done. The best is to give him some morphine and prepare the country for early elections. The surgeon said the cancer has spread everywhere.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show. Today's episode features a powerful and timely discussion with two incredible guests, Sylvie Beljanski, founder of the Beljanski Foundation, and Dr. John Hall, research director of the Beljanski Foundation. Together, we'll dive into critical updates on prostate cancer research, including the groundbreaking work on prostate cancer stem cells, and why fundraising for this research has never been more urgent. They'll also reflect on President Joe Biden's recent prostate cancer diagnosis, a national reminder of how widespread and serious this disease truly is, and how it underscores the need for integrative approaches and early intervention. Get ready for an eye-opening discussion with Sylvie Beljanski and Dr. John Hall, one that could transform how we think about prostate health and healing. Sylvie and John, it's always so good to have you guys back on the show. We love having you here. And the one thing I wanted to ask, Sylvie, for the people that don't know you yet, or maybe the new people that have come to the podcast for the first time, please, Sylvie, introduce yourself, who you are, and a little intro of what you're doing here.
So my name is Sylvie Beljanski. I am the founder of the Beljanski Foundation, the 501c3 incorporated in New York since 1999. And I am also the president and founder of Maison Beljanski, a company selling dietary supplements. We are in Manhattan, in New York, on Midtown East Side, a nice little shop. And I love to speak about everything we are doing at the Beljanski Foundation. That's really my passion.
Yeah, we see that. We see that in you. And Dr. John Hall, please tell a little intro of who you are and what you're doing here.
Yes, my name is Dr. John Hall, and I'm the Director of Research at the Beljanski Foundation. And I've worked in that role for some years now. And fortunately, we have generated a lot of high-quality research, lots of publications, focused on the activity, the mechanism, and the before unknown possibilities of the Beljanski plant extracts, primarily anti-cancer effects, what we're talking about today.
Great. Dr. Hall, what are the key differences between President Biden and President Mitterrand handling their prostate cancer diagnosis?
Let me just start by referring to the similarities, which are important here. Mm-hmm. Both older men, when they were diagnosed, some time ago for Mitterrand, but very recently for Biden, President Biden. And they're advanced cancers in both cases with metastatic disease, primarily the bone. This is a common occurrence, meaning that prostate cancer isn't that common in men. It's 1 out of 8 overall. But as men age, the occurrence becomes more frequent. And it's often diagnosed late, as are many cancers, because there aren't that many symptoms. By the time it is diagnosed, it can have spread, and that's true in both of these cases. Let me go on to say there's a fundamental difference in how the treatments for the two presidents were handled. In the case, so far as we know, I have to add that. But I think both men were in the stage and went through traditional treatments. That was true for Mitterrand, and it appears to be what Biden is doing. But Mitterrand had a wonderful advantage. He worked with a doctor who was familiar with Mirko Beljanski's research and the anti-cancer plant extracts, and he was in a position to take advantage of those extracts. And this had a significant improvement of his prognosis, gave him additional time, additional quality of life. So that's the difference, the main difference.
So basically what I'm hearing is one took the very traditional approach of using only conventional medicine, and where Mitterrand used more natural and holistic healing methods, which was better.
You could say that Mitterrand was involved with overall a holistic approach, an integrative approach, because he took advantage of whatever the traditional medicines, the chemo and radiation could do. Plus, he ended up taking the Beljanski extracts, which were very successful.
For those who don't know, Mitterrand was, because it's in the past, François Mitterrand was a French president from 1981 to 1995. So he served two terms, were 7 years at the time. And just President Biden, there was no way officially that to acknowledge that the president could be sick, and any fear of disease was kept secret. And suddenly, surprise, the president has advanced prostate cancer. So when that became public for Mitterrand, that was the beginning of his second term, the beginning of the 90s. Of course, society had changed a lot. There was no social media at the time. Yes, no social media. There was.
You're celebrating.
It was only the officials, what we call today the legacy press, who was reporting about how the president was doing. Only those few chosen journalists who had access to the French White House who were allowed to report. There was a kind of agreement between the press and the power, and it was kept secret that Mitterrand was very sick. When my father was made aware of the situation, Mitterrand already had surgery. The surgeon had said the cancer has spread everywhere. There is nothing that can be done. He's obviously very much in pain. The best is to give him some morphine and prepare the country for early elections.
Wow.
So it was more advanced than we have ever seen Biden, actually.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. One thing that you even had a president take your supplements and take that natural holistic approach. That's a pretty big accomplishment, like in my opinion. Like for a president to actually take something that you guys produce.
Indeed, I think Mitterrand was so far advanced that the surgeon said there is nothing that can be done for this guy. The conventional medicine is not going to be able to help him. Cannot do anything for this cancer. It's too far gone. But it's a French story, so it was a ménage à trois, and the mistress, who was also living with the wife and the president in the French White House, knew about a good doctor who had good results with a doctor who was using my father's products, and that's how this doctor started to be invited to the French White House, see Mitterrand, and recommend those products that indeed have made a huge difference, because he was not taking anything else except morphine. So there was no competition actually with any other treatment, because he did not receive any conventional treatment.
Yeah, I want to dive into who was Dr. Mirko Beljanski, and what role did his natural extracts play in Mitterrand's reported recovery? I know we talked about it a little bit, but is there any deeper dive that you want to take there of how you want to approach it?
Yeah, I can explain who was, of course, my father, my late father was. He was a scientist at the Pasteur. He made his entire career at the Pasteur Institute and the CNRS, which is a French equivalent of NIH. He was one of the first scientists to look at the environment as a cause to cancer, but also wonder how the environment is affecting our DNA. We come up with this difference between cancer DNA, healthy DNA, where the two strands of the cancer DNA are stretched and open compared to healthy DNA. He looked also to the environment to find natural compounds that would do exactly the opposite of environmental toxins, that would recognize those big destabilized DNA of cancer cells and prevents their duplication. John, do you want to add more about the way those products are acting?
No, I think that's a good summary. The emphasis is on research. Beljanski found a way to measure the activity of an anti-cancer compound, an assay called the Oncotest. Just as Sylvie said, find compounds, natural extracts in this case, that stop the replication of DNA, specifically cancer cell DNA, but having very little to no effect on healthy cell DNA. So these are test tube experiments in the laboratory, which gave him a reason to pursue a couple of plant extracts called Pau Pereira and Revolfia vomitoria. And he went on after these initial discoveries to study the activity of these extracts in cells, which is what we do in labs with anti-cancer compounds and many other things. First cells in vitro and then in animals. And he showed very good results in both contexts. And that's what we inherited. I can go on, I'll talk later about what the foundation has done, but we're just a research organization that has continued his research. And it's been very successful.
And one thing I wanted to add on is, in what ways, Sylvie, did Mitterrand's health appear to improve after the beginning of the Beljanski protocol, according to the observers of Mitterrand?
Yeah, so as I told you, there was no social media at the time. So the decay, the fact that the president was very ill, did not appear that publicly because he was sheltered by the complacent and amicable press, but his public appearance had become more and more rare. There was reports that he had missed some big event or sent the prime minister to replace him. And very quickly, there were some questions. People were questioning what happens with Mitterrand, where is he? Where is the president? But very quickly after he started to take the products, he started to appear again, and he looked tired, but okay, and he was present. And then in a matter of months, he started to look himself again and started to give speeches and to travel again. And he was able to finish his second term. Again, 7 years. At the end of his second term, he was very alert and he looked in good condition. He improved very quickly over time, and that lasted for as long as he wanted, because he chose himself to put an end to his life after he had left the French White House.
It's amazing. And this is for Sylvie and you, John, as well. Like, what is integrative medicine for the people that don't know what it is yet? And how did Mitterrand's use of it differ from Biden's conventional approach?
Let me speak to that. I think integrative medicine really means anything that is not traditional or conventional. As I've already said, the important ingredient for effective alternative or holistic medicine is to have research behind it. That's really what makes it viable. The inclusion of this for Mitterrand, I think, was a lifesaver, as Sylvie has described. There are two factors there: extension of life and quality of life during that extension. We don't know much about President Biden's treatment, but it sounds like it's conventional. And ultimately, this podcast should be an invitation to President Biden and his doctors to consider alternatives. I think it's well worth pointing that out. Let me also say, and I should add, that the combination of mainstream or conventional therapies and alternative therapies in the form of the Beljanski extracts is also very successful. So it's not an either-or situation. Integrative means bringing these two approaches together, and it's possible to do that simultaneously in the same treatment protocols at the same time. One other advantage of that is, as you may know, these conventional treatments are very often difficult for patients to take, to withstand. They can be toxic, there's side effects, and some patients handle that better than others, but it's not a pretty picture in many cases. Whereas the plant extracts that Beljanski developed do not have negative side effects. So you're in a different world there. But when you bring those two worlds together, you can actually reduce the concentrations of the more toxic drugs, take advantage of their anti-cancer effect, while having the non-toxic extract combined. Ultimately, it's called a dose reduction effect on the mainstream therapy. You need less chemo drug.
Yeah,
if there are extracts in there.
Yeah, and I would like to add that the Beljanski Foundation has done extensively a number of research on prostate and prostate cancer. That was done as a result of partnerships with Columbia University mostly and Nanjing University. And the synergy of action with chemotherapies, including the one which is often used for prostate cancer, which is dexotaxel, has been confirmed. And also there was a publication studying the effectiveness of pauperera on advanced prostate cancer cells, which do not respond anymore to hormonal treatment, castration therapy, which have been rumored to be used by Biden.
Adding on to that, like, what are the problems with conventional treatments for prostate cancer, and what are the side effects of it? Welcome to a new chapter in men's health. Prostable offers a natural boost for men over 50 concerned with maintaining their prostate health. The capsules are packed with 310 milligrams of pauperera and 60 milligrams of Rauwolfia vomitoria, ensuring potent support for your prostate. Experience broad-spectrum support with safe and non-prescription ingredients, all backed by science. Plus, enjoy the added benefit of reduced nighttime bathroom visits, helping you achieve a more restful and uninterrupted sleep. Discover real stories and transformative experiences. Visit our website to see what others are saying about Prostable. Take charge of your well-being with confidence and feel better naturally. Discover Maison Beljanski, sourced from nature, perfected by science. Enjoy a 15% discount on your first purchase with code EP2. Prostable, where your health journey begins.
Well, there are many side effects which come along with the fact that most of these conventional treatments, and I'm talking about chemotherapy and radiotherapy, radiation treatments, are not selective. So when they hit the body, they're going to kill the relatively rapidly dividing cells in the tumor, but they're also going to damage other cells in the body that happen to be rapidly dividing, even if they're healthy. Hence the negative side effects. And that includes wiping out the GI tract, compromising the immune system. Given these side effects and others in the body, losing your hair is the least of your problems, but that's also a common side effects that people suffer from. I think it's been hard for the whole world to comprehend and accept the fact that you can have active but selective plant extracts that kill cancer cells and leave healthy cells unharmed. That's really the story here. That's the gift that we're working with, the legacy of Beljanski that we've been continuing to study and develop.
Yeah, and when it comes to hormonal treatment, also hormonal treatment, testosterone very often removed. Men get deprived chemically from their testosterone because testosterone is associated to fueling the cancer.
Right.
But this is going to slow the natural process evolution of cancer. It's not going to destroy cancer cells. So at some point, the cancer will nevertheless continue to grow. And then conventional treatment had just nothing to offer to those men. There has been a publication, research done at Columbia, showing that even those cancer cells, which are extremely aggressive, which will not respond anymore to hormonal treatment, they will still be sensitive to pauperera. And pauperera has different mechanism of action to address cancer cells, ranging from NF-kappa B, which is a center for inflammation, to apoptosis, to autophagy. I really encourage people who are interested in the research to look at the website of the Beljanski Foundation, beljanski.org, and look at prostate, and they will find several publications on the topic. And again, the mechanism of action are several and cumulative, and it's really impressive considering that there is no side effects and no toxicity associated with those plant extracts because they are selective. They do recognize cancer cells. They stay away from healthy cells. They do not harm healthy cells. And that's really the beauty of the product.
Yeah. It really is like the difference between a shotgun approach, which hits everything and can kill everything, versus a sniper approach, which is super targeted.
That's well put.
So well said.
That's
Yes.
how a Texan describes it, with guns. But yeah, my next question is, what is Palpereira and Rauwolfia, and how are they believed to support prostate cancer and health cancer treatment? I know we just talked about it, but is there anything else you want to add for those specific ingredients or supplements that you can take to possibly target that and maybe go deeper into it possibly?
Yeah, so paupera, it comes from the bark of a tree from the Amazon rainforest, and we create a extract which is natural and rich in, we know the active ingredient, and this has been extremely studied. And Rauwolfia vomitoria is coming from Africa. We use the root of the bark, and this extract, which is quite well known in Ayurveda medicine, we do something different. We remove the reserpine, which could be toxic, and we have an extract which is devoid of reserpine, rich of alstonine, and is not associated with any toxicity again, just good to recognize also selectively cancer cells and not touching healthy cells.
John, is there anything else you wanted to add on to that? Or
I think that's a good explanation. And I think it could be added that both of these extracts, interestingly, from a scientific standpoint, are structurally related. So the active compounds are related to each other, which really helps make this whole story make sense, because we're not yanking out compounds from nature that don't have anything to do with each other. We're seeing similar effects, but not identical, from the Pao extract and the Rauwolfia extract. But there's an underlying commonality in the structures, which says, oh, that helps us understand how they're going to work in the cancer cells.
Yeah, and they have both shown in studies to inhibit inflammation, the modulation of NF-kappa B. They both have shown to show apoptosis of cancerous cells. They both have shown to be selective to cancer cells. They both have shown to be synergistic with a number of chemotherapies. And recently, they both have shown the ability to address cancer stem cells. So indeed, they are extremely similar. However, there are some differences between the two compounds. The paupera has also an antiviral benefit, which is also interesting. And the Rauwolfia vomitoria doesn't have any antiviral benefit, but it's very good at hormone regulation. It can be helped with issues linked to fertility, hot flashes with menopause. There is a very good regulation in addition to the anti-cancer benefit.
so technically, you don't even need to have cancer to possibly take some of these supplements if you just wanted to take it for menopause or hormonal regulation or anything that you just described, correct?
Absolutely, because again, there is no side effect.
Yeah.
But the take home there is also that we know in the case of prostate that these extracts are anti-inflammatory. And that means specifically that they are effective against the most common inflammation in men, called BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is a swelling of the prostate because of overgrowth of prostate cells, but it's not a cancer. At the same time, that inflammatory condition is a forerunner of cancer. So cancer is related to inflammation, and inflammation can often, in many tissues, lead to a cancer. And both extracts are effective at that inflammatory step. And that means they're both effective for cancer prevention.
Yeah, and again, we have research to show that for both compounds, the paupera and the Rauwolfia vomitoria. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Why is there renewed interest in Beljanski's plant-based treatments today, and what ongoing research supports their use of it? I know we talked about research and things like that. Is there anything else you want to add on to that?
I would not say there is a renewed interest. I think it has never went away, which is amazing considering that there is not a lot of publicity or effort. But between my father at the time of Mitterrand in the 90s to nowadays, those products have always been around, always been available, and always in demand because it's a word of mouth. People know that they make a difference, and this recommend that to their family and friends. So I would say the renew, maybe increased interest would come from the number of publications that have been obtained through the efforts of the Beljanski Foundation. And every time there is communication or around those publications, there is, of course, a kind of renewed interest.
Yes, let me also contribute that I think with social media, as well as our research, there is a growing demand for alternatives. It's common knowledge that chemotherapy and radiation treatments are damaging to healthy tissues and cells. And I think people are more aware of that, more widely aware of it, and are looking for alternatives. And that's where we come up in the searches and the kind of investigations for alternatives. Once they find out that you don't have toxicity, you still get anti-cancer effect, it's, oh, wow, renewed interest. Or new interest.
Yeah. And how does the research project at Kansas University Medical Center on prostate cancer stem cells relate to the Beljanski extracts? And what might this mean for the future of cancer treatment?
This relates to a fundamental discovery which dates back just over 20 years, relating to the fundamental role that cancer stem cells are involved with cancer persistence and ultimately with metastasis and cancer spread. And it's now very well not just modeled and thought about, but there's more and more evidence that the cancer stem cells really have a special role in the insidious part of cancer, that it's hard to kill. It evades treatments of all kinds. And so a frontier in cancer research now is how to find treatments that actually target the cancer stem cells. We believe cancer stem cells represent a small population of the cells in a tumor. So not all cells in a tumor are the same genetically. There's real heterogeneity in there. But a small population are called stem cells. And that's because they have kept the property that healthy stem cells have to rapidly divide and to do so in an uninhibited fashion. They can do it without cessation, and they can also resist the drugs that are given. Many of them are drug resistant, cancer stem cells. And that means they can survive treatments. Even a treatment that shrinks the tumor still leaves behind some cancer stem cells. And over time, those can start, they wake up, meaning I should add, you get a remission if you get the tumor down. And the symptoms that cancer causes are reduced. But over time, the cancer stem cells, we think, are responsible for recurrence of the cancer. And that's something most people are familiar with. The cancer comes back. And that's something that is caused by cancer stem cells. And that recent research on prostate cancer, the new research we want to do, will demonstrate and test, and I say demonstrate because I'm optimistic, but we need to test the effect of the extracts on prostate cancer stem cells specifically. And that's in the context of knowing already from previous work by our groups that it works for pancreatic cancer stem cells, ovarian cancer stem cells, and breast cancer stem cells. So it's a combination of our research on cancer stem cells, but you can see the importance of it if these are the agents that actually cause recurrence of cancer and persistence and survival and ultimately the death.
The audience will be able to find the publication on pancreatic and ovarian cancer stem cells, which have been done in vitro and in vivo. Again, on the website of the foundation, beljanski.org. The breast cancer stem cell study is not finished, so the publication is not available yet. But the preliminary data is absolutely incredible. You have those mice which have been, two groups of mice which have been injected with those very nasty breast cancer stem cells. And you can see the control group is good. All those metastases are growing everywhere. And the group which has received the plant extract, there is zero metastasis, zero. You look at that and you double take, how is it possible? So we are extremely positive, extremely optimistic, and we look forward now to fund this research on the prostate cancer stem cells. Finish on breast, get that published, and do the research on prostate. Because even if we are very optimistic, you still need to do the research. You just cannot say it worked on one organ. Let's assume and pray that it's going to work the same way for all organs. Generally, it does. So far, everything we have seen, it does. But we still need to do the research.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Sylvie, this question's for you. How did Mitterrand's decision to keep his illness a secret influence public perception? And how might that compare to today's expectation of transparency from public officials? Like, how does this really influence the perception of keeping the illness a secret? And how does that influence today and how people would see that?
S- So I would say that at the time, because the secret was well kept, it had little influence, actually. It didn't. Mitterrand succeeded to keep the secret because it did not disappear for very long from the public eye, because he was able to put his hand on the Beljanski extracts quickly enough to reappear and appease all the suspicions that could have been raised because of his short absence. So he succeeded. But again, it was the 90s, there was no social media. And we see that today the expectations, the bar is much higher. If the president is not there completely, if he doesn't seem well, everybody notices. And then you have all those social postings that start to go crazy, and those videos that are posted and reposted. And now presidents cannot just, there is no place to hide.
True. And out of everything that we've talked about, is there anything else that you want to add on to that conversation? This could have been about Mitterrand, this could have been about Biden, conventional medicine. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about today?
I would like to stress that this is an amazing research program. Those little plant extracts are extremely unique. I hear very often, if it was working, we would hear about it. Well, you don't always hear about things because sometimes they get suppressed by the governments. That's what happened with the story of my father. We had to start all over again here in the States. But the publications are there. There are podcasts like this one where we are talking about it. There is the Beljanski Cancer Conference where we are speaking about those things. I think that the argument is not valid anymore. The information is out there, but it takes some work to find it, and we are here to help you. So also I would like to say this research is so unique. It's only there because people support it. If you can support the foundation, please do so.
Yeah. Is there any other books or events or any other materials that you want to promote? I know you wanted to promote the research in there. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we promote today before we end?
There is my book, Winning the War on Cancer, The Epic Journey Towards a Natural Cure, which tells all the story about what happened and how we started all over again, and how Dr. Hall joined the organization and research programs that we started to do together at Columbia University on prostate. That was our first research program.
It's amazing. Awesome. Sylvie and John, thank you so much for joining today. It was great to have you on again and covering all the intricacies between Mitterrand and President Biden. Thank you so much for joining. And audience, if you've listened up to this point, thank you so much for joining us on the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.